Hi there! So actually I'm supposed to be working and I don't look my best. As you can see, I'm here at my laptop. But I'm just so pumped. I have to do a vlog. Yeah, why waste this energy? So let me place it a little bit more conveniently. I'm kind of having this awakening again, which I have back and forth, as to the fact, as to just how much we're all in control of our own lives. It sounds super cheesy. It sounds maybe really frustrating for people who don't have that feeling, who feel like they're in a bad position and they got a bad deck of cards to play with. But let me just be really concrete about it. I don't want to be just like, saying cheesy things you've heard a million times before. Whenever I feel stuck, I try to think about extremes. I think about what is the absolute worst case scenario and how can I break down the dream into logical steps? You probably heard that also a million times before. So in my specific case, I felt like I had my hands tied for 18 out of my 28 years of life because I've been an immigrant. I mean, granted, yeah, a lot of that was childhood. I was still dependent on adults, school, that kind of thing, not really like an independently acting individual, not really full maturity and identity. But at least since 2015, when I came to Germany, that's 7 years ago, I was 21, I guess. I'd have to do the exact maths. I felt very, very frustrated already. Actually, since 2012, let's start there. Finished school, went to Canada, started my degree, and realized, man, life is hard. Because that degree was hella expensive. It cost my family a lot to get me there, to keep me there. I didn't have the capacity to do it justice, to be honest. I feel really bad about that still. Or even to contribute financially, because you're doing a full-time degree, you're in a new country, you're having all these sort of difficult and also beautiful experiences. It's a huge challenge in itself. So I didn't find the capacity to work that much. When I thought, okay, I have to get my crap together, I have to really push, and I started to really study and also work on top of that, started to pull out this inner giant that is now very present in my life, is part of my identity, for the first time, I think, or one of the first times after school. School was really challenging in itself. I was very disciplined and strong there, but this was the first time that it was like in real life. And I realized like I would very quickly hit burnouts because I was getting up at 5 or 6 to go do a cafeteria shift that paid pretty badly. I mean, actually, compared to other countries, it's a lot of money what I was getting, but compared to Vancouver itself, it was just not really helping anything in my situation, because you have insane fees and living costs. And so, yeah, and then trying to go to all my lectures and then trying to find time to study and do my projects and practice piano, because I was doing music the first year. And then trying to get some more shifts in the evening, trying to have a social life and a relationship, and just getting very little sleep. And of course, after 1 or 2 weeks, you're like totally through. And it's just been this back and forth between how far can I push myself, and then taking a step back and realizing, I should just work smarter. And every time I've tried to work smarter, I hit this glass ceiling of being like, yeah, but you're not allowed to, because my visa says you can only do 20 hours, because no one will give you a normal job that pays better if you don't have a degree, because you can't be self-employed because your visa says no. And so just working with all of these limitations, eventually I finally come to the point, actually really slowly, after so many years, that the worst case scenario is I just don't immigrate. I just, don't have to change my nationality. I don't have to do anything. It's all a choice and all a matter of priorities. And so I've spent my whole life trying to become, well, briefly Canadian, but mostly European. At first English, then I realized, okay, England's not quite for me, and that was a good call because now Brexit happened. What I really, really wanted is to just be in Europe and have access to the European cultures and markets and individuals and all of these values and all this history, all this richness that we have here. But it's still a choice, and it's still something that exists on a priority list, and where exactly it sits is up to me. So I could have just said, you know what, it's much more important to me to be able to work smart, to be able to do what I love, to be able to build something meaningful, and therefore I can just forget about immigrating for now and build that first. So now I'm at my 7th year out of the 8 that you normally need to become a citizen somewhere. And now it really feels like a waste if I would just give up and prioritize something else. So that's why I'm still trying to stick it out to the end. But also more and more solutions have started to appear. And for example, now there's this Estonian e-residency. I'm already an e-resident, trying to look into whether I could officially register a business there that I could then do somewhere else with my limited visa, if that's still allowed, and that kind of thing. Just thinking outside the box and thinking, okay, now I have freelancer status here. I'm allowed to do anything that is related to knowledge transfer. So I'm able to be a teacher, a consultant, anything that is that type of freelancing. I'm not allowed to start a business per se, but I'm allowed to be this person that works as self-employed. So how can I systemize that? How can I still scale that up? How can I free up my time and find ways to work smarter within the given limitations? And that's what's really made me super creative and super resilient. And I don't know why I keep having moments where I forget this. It's like the old habits just creep back in, and this automatic mentality of like, I just have to work really hard and stick my head down and do my hours and maybe try to find a job that pays a little bit better and then another one that pays a little bit better. And that's just linear, limited thinking. So I have all these moments, especially when I've had good days, good experiences. I'm in a good biological state, good personal life situation, where I think like, oh my God, there's so many possibilities. Also, it's really important to curate your inputs. So I've really worked hard on having, for example, a Twitter feed that is really good for me, because I'm seeing all of these entrepreneurs and digital creators and founders talking about things like this. And it's super inspiring. And there's so many different ideas that I see, like, oh, I could do that. I could do that. That's a business opportunity. That's a good idea. I could do that as a freelancer right now. I could use that tool. I could blah, blah, blah. So what I'm trying to say is, just think about the worst case scenario, what you really want, and compare and realize nothing is that bad. And in the end, everything is my choice. Everything is in my control, even if it doesn't feel like that. I'm going to get dark here for a second. Trigger warning, mental health. You can skip these like 30 seconds if you like, but there's a comedian I like. Also got a really bad image now, Louis C.K., because he went and was really stupid and awful in his private life. But I like to separate the artist from the work. So I think his work, his comedy, is sometimes really, really great. And it can be quite dark. And I think in one of his stand-ups, he says something like, the thing about life is you don't have to do anything, because at any moment you could decide to end it, right? So it's a very dark thought. But that just created a shift in me and being like, yeah, I mean, no matter how bad it gets, and to some extent, it's our choice. And also, okay, trigger section ended. We are in control of our minds. So if you heard all of this coaching or CBT things, if you're familiar with this type of thinking and analysis and self-restructuring and self-therapy, then you'll know that about this triangle between thoughts, feelings, emotions, and that affects our actions. And no matter what happens to you, you are still in control of this within yourself. So you could be blamed for a crime that you didn't commit and be sent to years of prison and have isolation and everything, and that's going to be incredibly tough. But your mind, no one can take that away from you yet. If you watch Black Mirror, maybe in the near future that could be different. But yeah, up until now, you're in control of your own thoughts, your emotions, and your state of being to a certain extent. And that's actually a very big extent. And the more you are tested, the more you realize just how far you can go in being in control of yourself and overcoming difficulties. Yeah, so a bit of a pep talk for you. It ended up not being as concrete as I wanted, but yeah, I talked a little bit about my life. I'm really hyped up today, but I only had coffee, I swear. It's I don't know, maybe it's because I've been sleeping more. I think that it really is a big secret to success and wellness and happiness, is just get enough sleep, which is different for everyone. I don't like people who tell you like, oh, any less than 6 hours and you'll be slowly dying. It's like, no, you have to find what your individual sleep need is, but then make sure to meet that. Mine is somewhere between 6 and 7.5, I think. Yeah. and just go and do it. I'm really excited about this year, what's going to happen, because this is the year where I finally figure out, am I going to be able to stay? Did it all work? Or did this all go to shit? And it has been just 7 years of learning and self-development. Either way, it's, as I said, it's made me incredibly resilient. It's made me the person who I am today. And I think I really needed this if I want to be successful, because I had so much privilege and so much luck in many areas of life that I was very much in my comfort zone. And I needed to have this super hard 7 years of kind of the equivalent of military training to really make me into the badass person that I always wanted to be, who can just take anything and deal with anything and overcome it and find a way to do what I want to do. And also make sure that what I want to do, that it really aligns with all of my values, and I'm really okay with it, that I have convinced myself that I am a good person in my definition, and that everything I want to do is for a greater positive cause. That gives me the freedom